Just about every night in our house, as we're doing bedtime, we read Eder's favorite story over and over again. And if you haven't had the pleasure, I thought I would bring it and read it to you today. You might not have enough toddlers in your life. 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. It was bedtime, so 5 little monkeys took a bath. 5 little monkeys put on their pajamas. 5 little monkeys brushed their teeth. 5 little monkeys said goodnight to their mama. Then 5 little monkeys jumped on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor. The doctor said, "No more monkeys jumping on the bed." So 4 little monkeys were jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, "No more monkeys jumping on the bed." I won't subject you to the whole book, but it keeps going and going and going. Every page, 3 monkeys are jumping, 2 monkeys are jumping, 1 monkey is jumping. Every time the doctor says the same thing, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Until they go to sleep and Mama starts jumping on the bed. Eder is obsessed with this book. He takes it over. Usually when we get to about 5 little monkeys, he's like, "You're going too slow," and he starts to read it. And he doesn't just read it, he likes to recite it while driving in the car or walking outside. And he often interrupts with saying, "Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah." He's so into it that recently he started improvising within the story. He's 2. One of the things that we're working really hard on right now is encouraging him to say please instead of just screaming when he wants something, which is going great. And he recently was hanging out with his grandparents, and he was in the middle of a dramatic rendition of 5 Little Monkeys, and all of a sudden he stopped and said, "The doctor should have said please. Then he could have gotten what he wanted. The doctor should have said please." So then for a while, every story was please, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Then there was a period where he was talking about the different booboos. It wasn't just their head, they fell and hit their elbow or their knee, they got a boo-boo, they needed a kiss. And then my personal favorite, where's the Dada monkey? Listening to Eder think through this story made me realize how little I had ever thought about it. I grew up with this rhyme. I grew up with this song, and I'd always just kind of written it off as like a story you tell to a kid. Don't jump on the bed. You'll hit yourself and get hurt. But seeing it through his eyes, it's kind of a terrible story to tell toddlers. I mean, why would we tell a story to a toddler which models adult authority figures speaking in a way we would never tolerate in real life? Like, where does this doctor get off? You call him, your child has fallen, there's no questions, how's your kid doing? Any signs of concussion? I recommend wrapping the bandage this way. No, he's just like, "You're a terrible parent, no more monkeys jumping on the bed." And then what kind of a parent just keeps putting their kids to bed again and again, knowing they're gonna get injured in the same exact way, no different intervention? And then, where is the Dada? I mean, we could go on and on and on. There are so many elements of this story that are problematic. And you might be thinking like, oh my goodness, pregnancy brain, she's losing it. She's starting to hallucinate. She's reading toddler stories and seeing Torah. But I think that there's something really important in this book, because this is a dynamic that's alive for all of us in different ways. All of us have inherited stories that we've not really taken the time to interrogate. Or we've written stories for ourselves that no longer serve us, but they become so ingrained that they start to dictate the course of our lives. We just repeat and repeat and repeat without ever really thinking about it. I'm feeling this in a very personal way right now. Many of you have kindly asked throughout these last 8 months, when are you due? And I've given you all sorts of crazy answers. In the fall sometime, in September, mid-September, Rosh Hashanah, soon, not soon enough. The reason I keep evading the answer to that question is because I'm kind of terrified about getting caught up in a story. When I was pregnant with Eder, the whole time I told myself, he's due April 30th. He's due April 30th. And then when April 30th came and went and he didn't come, I was going crazy. And then when I had to wait another 18 days, I was going out of my mind. And then when I was pregnant with Eder, I had this vision for exactly how he was going to come. I was going to have a home birth just like my mom did. He was going to be born with the perfect soundtrack. I had all the songs picked out in our bedroom with the candle lights and this and that. And I was so attached to that story that I went through 8 days of labor before I was even willing to consider I might need medical attention. And so this time, I'm staying away from any kind of story. I won't even think about a due date or a way he's coming or anything, because I don't want to get attached to a reality that might not come to be. And it's not just something that I deal with. I talk about this with people all the time. There's a young adult I was talking to the other day. She is what you might call a hopeless romantic. She's swiping on the apps, and before she's even connected with someone, she's imagining their first date and where they're going to go and what they're going to eat. When she starts a relationship, by like the second date, she's planned out their wedding and their children's names. And it's gotten to be such a thing that her friends say, like, okay, we know you're going to make up stories. We know you're going to imagine things, but just only think about stories that could happen in a coffee shop. Anything else is off the table, because what happens for her is she meets a guy and she falls madly in love and she starts telling herself these stories, and either she's so involved in these stories that she can't actually see him for who he is and how they are, that she stays longer than she should, or when they break up, she's devastated because she didn't just lose a guy she was seeing for 2 months, she lost the love of her life and the father of her children. And that is devastating. It happens at work, where we can't hear communications because we're so attached to a story that someone doesn't like us or doesn't see us or doesn't feel us. It happens in medical situations. I mean, you could go on and on and on. And this week, I was just so shaken reading the news from Israel. Because for almost 2 years, there's been a story put forward by Bibi Netanyahu that more war and more intensity and more invasion and more control of Gaza will yield the hostages, will yield success, will yield the result that we want. And I just can't help but feel that there's this story that's not serving our people, that's not serving the world, and the security cabinet is so stuck in this story, they can't see what's actually going on. And oh my God, the heartbreak. Which is so good that we're here today. We all have stories that we need to break out of, and that's what today is all about. In addition to being Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of consolation, today is also Tu B'Av, which is fondly known as Israeli Valentine's Day. And it's not just a frivolous day of love. Tu B'Av actually has really powerful significance. In the ancient world, our ancestors' lives were very prescribed. They lived according to a story that was written at birth that they could recite from the moment they came into the world. You got married to someone from your tribe. You lived and did what your tribe lived and did. There was no variation, no deviation, no nothing. And there was a point at which our ancestors realized that was too limited. They needed more. They needed more opportunity. They needed a moment where they could escape the confines of the story they had told themselves. So they crafted this holiday of Tu B'Av. And in the Talmud, we are taught, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel teaches that the women would go out and they would literally trade clothes. They would all put on someone else's whitewear, and they would go out into the fields to meet men, and they would say, lift up your eyes, literally look outside the limited world that you've been living in. Look beyond the possibilities that you thought were possible for yourself. See a different story. And they would fall in love and they would get married. The rest of the year, you could only marry someone in your tribe, but on Tu B'Av, you could marry anyone your heart dreamed of. The rest of the year, your story followed one simple story, but on Tu B'Av, you could do anything you wanted. Tu B'Av was the day that you could break out, that everyone consciously left behind the confines of what they had thought could be and embraced new possibilities. That's what we need today. All of us need to lift our eyes. All of us need, personally, politically, globally. We need to see beyond the stories we've told ourselves and to write new possibilities. Which brings me back to Five Little Monkeys. I was at the park this week, and, on the swings you end up chatting, and I was talking with this mom who has two adorable little toddler girls. And, we're talking, and she starts to tell me her story, and it was amazing. She says that she struggled with infertility for years and years and years. She went through so many cycles of IVF that finally doctors told her, you're not ever going to be able to carry a child. Your body just isn't capable. You need to just come to accept that. You need to either go through surrogacy or go through adoption, but this is not working and it's not going to work. She was devastated at the time. She had always dreamed of being pregnant, always dreamed of having a baby. And it took her a while to take in that feedback, and eventually she and her partner found a surrogate, and the surrogate got pregnant like that. And then, 3 months later, she conceived naturally. She calls her girls her miracle twins. She says, I think the only reason I have the family that I have is because I was able to let go of my story. And when I did, it opened up a world of possibilities. Today is Tu B'Av. Tenu einechem, lift up your eyes. The stories of our life are still in process. The pen is in your hand. Write the future we all dream of. We rise, page 184.